Great. So welcome again to our the Talent Spark podcast. Today we are joined by Nicola Anderson, the interim CEO at FinTech Scotland. Nicola, great to have you with us today. Thanks for joining us. Do you want to give us a bit of an introduction to yourself and to what your role is at FinTech Scotland?
Sure. Thanks very much for having me along, Ewan. It's great to be here this morning. So as you say, I'm the interim CEO at FinTech Scotland. FinTech Scotland is Scotland's cluster management organisation, where we're really here to help young entrepreneurial businesses in the fintech sector in Scotland promote and scale and grow. So we're here very much focused on the entrepreneurial community in Scotland and helping Scotland realise that opportunity through fintech, both at an economic and at a social level.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So, 2020, where do you start? It's been quite a year, and I think I'm pretty sure that's the start of most people's interviews. But I mean, it has had an impact, But I was wondering what sort of impact it's had on fintech, because it's a kind of, I mean, we've all had to deal with living from home, working from home, and sorting out our finances from here, and not getting to the bank or not going to the shops and so on. So, has fintech, how has it dealt with 2020 and the impact of the pandemic and us all working from home?
Yeah, it's absolutely that top of mind question for everybody, isn't it? So there's a number of things that I think would be important to say here in answer to that question. So if we looked at the fintech community as a whole and those entrepreneurial businesses, what we've seen actually, Ewan, is the number of fintech businesses grow during COVID-19 and during the pandemic. So we've welcomed around another 20 businesses into that fintech community over that period of time, all focused on different innovations and different markets and different opportunities and propositions, but really seeing that entrepreneurial spirit develop in the subject of fintech. We've seen other fintechs who've made very sensible business decisions and have been thoughtful about securing business at that time. Some have had to take advantage of the furlough scheme, that's for sure. But then we've seen a huge uptick in the demand for fintech innovation in the financial services industry. And what we are absolutely really proud of here in Scotland is that many of our fintech entrepreneurs were working to that agenda of delivering better outcomes for people and that financial inclusion agenda. And so they've been in a really strong position to help the financial services sector digitally interact with their customers, whether that's onboarding a customer in a digital way, which would have been different from that physical environment before, or whether that's lending to a customer in a digital way, or whether that's helping a customer in another way digitally. We've had a huge variety there where our fintech entrepreneurs have just been in that prime position to help people manage money.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that inclusion. You mentioned inclusion there, and I noticed on the website, there has been a big drive and a big push for this. And I think I had it in my notes here. The UK financial well-being strategy that was launched. Financial services, the inclusion part of it. I think you're right. There's always been that nervousness to talk about financial situations, and I noticed a number of companies are kind of pushing that to try and help people just talk about money as much as anything else. So that's been a really important something, like you say, across such a challenging time like the pandemic, where people are obviously financially struggling. People have found it difficult, and to open up and to talk about that is really an inclusive way. And there's a number of companies that are helping people with that, like Amicus and so on. That's been part of that growth, I guess.
It's been a huge part of that growth. So there's been a number of strands, and I'll come back to inclusion in a minute, but there's been a number of strands in that growth. So fundamental to that is the fintech's ability to drive data insights. So we have really strong data analytic and data insight businesses here in Scotland, connected to that thought of open banking and the opportunities that arose through that legislation change. So those fintechs have been really at the fore in driving some of that insight to help them businesses and others make really good decisions. So Float is another great example of an innovative business helping the SME community as we think about economic recovery. And Float is helping those SMEs just really understand cash flow so that they're able to make the right decisions at the right time. So real-time cash flow is a novelty. I think many of us who've been in business would agree. So it's really innovative. So there's that type of innovation. There's the operating model type of innovation where the fintechs are helping move from a physical to a digital environment. And then absolutely really proud of the financial inclusion strengths that we have in Scotland. Amicus, you've mentioned already, who are involved at the moment in a fantastic project called Proxy Address, where so you'll have heard of that, absolutely. That this concept that you need an address to prove your identity, and they're challenging some of those norms, which is really progressive thinking, progressive thinking. So the Money and Pension Service have launched their UK financial wellbeing strategy, which you just talked about, and our fintech community in Scotland is contributing to the development of some of that thinking, where we will hopefully see fintech play a role in how that delivers and advances, as well as you've also touched there on talking about money. So we had during COVID, we've had National Talk Money Week, another initiative by the Money and Pension Service. And I think you're absolutely right. This gives us a really good opportunity to embrace that concept of breaking free and starting to open up that conversation about money, and fintech and the innovations behind it to drive those insights through data just allows that conversation to happen a little more.
I think absolutely. I think just as you talked about the disruption there of the market, the challenging of some of these norms that have just been, like you say, the proxy address that the Amicus are challenging. I think that's the mindset that these entrepreneurs have brought to that, to say, well, do you know what? It doesn't have to be that way. We'll challenge this and let's see where we can go. And it's about helping people. It's like you've mentioned right at the start, improving people's lives. Using fintech to improve people's lives, which is key. And it really, I know from a recruiter's point of view, there's so many more people want to be involved in businesses that have a bigger impact than just a business. They have a wider impact, and I know that's a big pull for a number of people who are looking for jobs right now.
Absolutely. So as I think about impact and I think about some of those amazing entrepreneurs, we have a group of teachers who are coming around the concept of teaching children about digital money and developing an innovation called Sonic Pocket. So this notion that children, Generation Alpha, I think, possibly won't appreciate physical money when they're my age or beyond. So how do you teach the value of money when you don't have to hold it? And what does that look like? So that's the kind of innovation that they're coming around. But Ewan, as we look to the future and think about Scotland's opportunity, we are starting to see our fintech community and other innovations come around the subject of the climate agenda. And that has a real opportunity, I think, from an impact perspective, and sets us up in really strong, as we think about the pathway to COP26 in particular, really driving some change in that space.
You mentioned there just about, we've talked a bit about Scotland there, and there are other regions that are doing fintech and growing it. And I wondered if you had seen other areas where you think actually there's some really good ideas here or there. Are there other regions that are doing well that we might be able to pick up some thoughts from or pick up some tips from?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, without question. And that's one of our key areas of focus, and always has been at FinTech Scotland. So we've worked to build bridges and establish communities beyond our Scotland network. So we're part of the FinTech National Network here in the UK, which shares innovation and lessons right across the FinTech hubs, from FinTech Wales, FinTech Northern Ireland, FinTech North in the north of England, etc. So there's that opportunity to learn from each other, which is key and vital, so we really can progress. And then at FinTech Scotland, we also have a similar arrangement with a group of European hubs. We're working with about 16 European hubs, again, to share and learn lessons. And we hope to do more, in particular with the FinTech corridor in Ireland, who are considering the payments sector at the moment. And we have real strength in Scotland in the payments sector, so we can build some good alliances there. And then we look to Asia, and some of the work that's happening in that market. We'll do some work hopefully with Hong Kong and Singapore as well in the future. So that we absolutely have to be connected globally on this, and we're in a really strong position that Scotland welcomes that, and we can have those relationships to learn from each other.
Just to jump back slightly, you touched on that about the environmental impact of the climate change and so on. Can you talk to us a bit more about that? How do they link?
Oh, no problem at all. There's quite a bit of thinking at the moment about the role that the financial services industry has to help address the climate agenda.
Right.
And it comes back to data and data insights, actually, I think quite a lot. So the ability to analyze where you're spending your money and where that business then might have an impact environmentally, so you can make some choices as a consumer as to whether or not you would want to spend your money there. You can make choices as an investor as to whether or not you would want to invest your money, because you have deeper insights into some of the practices that those businesses would do. So it's that type of data analytics and that type of information that makes you as an investor, a consumer, a citizen more informed about some of the decisions that you can make. And then that spending power then helps to drive and influence some of those businesses to change.
That's fascinating.
So that's quite a lot.
That you're right. I mean, at the heart of all this is data, isn't it? It's that data to make better decisions, quicker decisions to impact on us. Whether it's climate change or whether it's mental health, almost. From a mental health point of view, for people to really understand. Well, actually, here's your money laid out. This is how it can help you. They can give you plans and give you advice. Something similar to what Nude are doing. To try and help people to achieve their first mortgage, or to achieve the money they need to try and get their first mortgage, to get on that housing ladder. It's building a community around that, and it's really innovative, and it can help people to make better decisions, like you say.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think, go back to your first question about 2020, and we've all had to adjust, haven't we? And there's a whole lot of this phrase of new norms, a whole lot of new norms. And I was thinking about this a little bit over the last few days as you reflect at the end of the year. And I think FinTech is setting us up for a whole lot of new norms. And Nude is a great example of a business that's helping us think about new saving norms, which just allows us to be more thoughtful, because they're bringing to light some insights through that data.
Absolutely.
So that's a great example of a business, and that's definitely doing that.
So one of the things we've kind of talked about, and this is the case for the renewable energy sector and a number of other sectors, that obviously the pandemic, as we are talking right now, we're in completely different locations. It's opened up that talent market, a broader, a more global talent market, if you like. Do you think that's going to have a positive impact? I know, having read Mark Logan's report, that the suggestion is that we need to continue to attract real the talent from further afield to come to Scotland to help us grow. Do you think it's going to be a positive thing that we've opened up that talent market now, and it can embrace remote working far easier?
Oh, absolutely. I think the FinTech community in Scotland's already doing that. So there's a couple of different points there. I think it's amazing what we learn from those other markets. The Mark Logan report touches on that, absolutely. And we've seen that in practice within the FinTech Scotland community. So we as an organization talk about that community really deliberately, because that sets us up for an environment where people share and they understand, they share experiences and they learn from each other.
Mhm.
So that ability to learn what's happening in different markets and different experiences, different mistakes, different lessons, different opportunities, really strengthens the build of those skills. So that's really useful from that perspective.
Yeah.
And then I think the other focus for skills, of course, is that we start to think about getting children really connected to financial services and that opportunity through FinTech. And that helps us then progress homegrown talent too. So there's the complete opportunity here for us to support the growth of the FinTech community through lessons globally, as well as getting the insights and expectations of the younger generations coming through to help us drive that change.
Yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely. I mean, younger people understand, and it never crossed my mind. But you're right. My son will probably never experience. Well, he experiences physical cash right now, but when he's our age, it'll not be. I would imagine it will not be there. So yeah, it's fascinating actually to help them grow and understand and manage their money far better.
Yes. Yeah.
So given its global nature, we talk about FinTech Scotland, FinTech Wales, FinTech Ireland, and everybody's coming together. Should we worry about regions or different sectors, or is it a case that actually FinTech is just this global movement, and there happens to be a pocket of people here, because it's cross-border, isn't it? That's the nature of it. It opens up opportunities across the globe. Do we need to worry too much about areas and groups?
So I think it makes us stronger, actually. We have a really strong heritage in Scotland in the financial services sector, in the tech sector, and we're building that strength in the data sector.
Yeah.
And we are innovators here as well. And also we welcome the diversity of thought and the diversity of contribution, and that inclusive approach really helps strengthen us. So I think it's about embracing that and really building that collaborative opportunity that will help us progress. And it's recognizing our strengths, where we have a role to play, as well as where we can learn from other areas that will just add and allow us to prosper.
Yeah. What does 2021 look like for FinTech Scotland? I know that's a difficult question to answer, I would imagine, but
so we are in for a very exciting year. I'm very confident about that, having seen the FinTech community grow during COVID and during 2020, with that opportunity then for 2021 firmly in our sights. So Ewan, we're focused on international opportunities, helping those FinTechs established here in Scotland really scale and think about that opportunity. So that entrepreneurial development is firmly in our mind, and we'll continue to support that. The UK government have been doing a review of FinTech. The HMT review has been underway. We're expecting recommendations from that around April time next year. So that will give us another opportunity to really think about the next steps for UK FinTech and how we play our role in that. And fundamentally, we at FinTech Scotland will progress with our plans to move into that next cluster excellence phase. I've touched on the international work that we plan to do in that, but we also plan to do more in the research and development area, really thinking about the role of R&D in FinTech innovations. So there are a host of opportunities for 2021, that's for sure. I think the the likelihood is that we are going to continue to be working from home for a while into 2021. And that gives us an opportunity just to continue to reflect and to think about how do we connect and make sure that we're including people. And it's through those lived experiences then that we're able to progress and advance that. And so I think there's the future is promising in the world of fintech. I think that's for sure.
It sounds great. Thank you again for your time today. I really appreciate you taking a bit of time out just before Christmas as well. So, Nicola, do you want to just give us if people want to get in touch or they want to find out more about FinTech Scotland, do you want to give us just an idea of where they can do that?
Sure, thank you, Ewan. So please sign up for our newsletter. You'll find that at the FinTech Scotland website. But also, if you're interested, please follow us on Twitter, follow us on LinkedIn, and we'll be delighted to hear from you, hear your ideas. Think anybody that's interested in talking about financial services for the future and how fintech can play a role would really be keen to hear about that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you again, and have a lovely Christmas.
Thanks, Ewan. Thank you.
Thanks.